When you see photos of the Mount Everest summit today, it looks like a conquered kingdom. The images that make the news show lines of hundreds of people waiting for their turn at the top, clipped to a single safety line, shuffling inch by inch like a queue at a theme park. You hear about tourists paying fortunes to operators who handle every detail of the logistics to ensure a safe trip up and down. It is easy to look at the modern state of high-altitude mountaineering and assume that the highest point on Earth has been tamed, but that is an illusion. What you are actually looking at is a traffic jam on just two highly engineered highways, the standard south route from Nepal and the north route from Tibet. These two paths are lined with thousands of meters of pre-placed safety ropes, heavily stocked camps, and rescue infrastructure. When you look past those two crowded paths, the mountain instantly reverts to a wild, lonely wilderness. Out of the 13,737 total summits in history, only 187 have been achieved by stepping off the main highways to try a non-standard route. That means just 1.4% of all successful climbs ever deviated from the engineered paths. Many of those who tried never made it home. Yet, among these difficult paths, there is one specific ridge that stands alone. It is a place so structurally unpredictable that across more than a century of exploration, it has achieved a perfect failure rate. Not a single person has ever successfully climbed it. Today, we are leaving the commercial crowds behind to trace the ultimate unsolved mystery of the Himalayas. The edge that has spent 100 years saying an absolute no to every human who touched it. This is the story of Fantasy Ridge. To understand why this ridge holds such legendary status in the climbing world, we have to go back to the very beginning of Everest exploration, to the year 1921. The British reconnaissance expedition marked the first time Western explorers ever mapped the true geography of the mountain. Leading the scouting team was George Mallory, the alpinist who would later vanish into the upper mists of the mountain in 1924. Mallory was trekking through the uncharted, wind-blasted valleys of Tibet when he stepped out onto the eastern approach of the mountain. Rising directly above him was the Kangshung face, a 3,000-meter wall of rock and hanging glaciers, but what caught his eye was the jagged spine of snow and ice where the east face collided with the northeast ridge. It is said that Mallory sat in the thin air, raised his binoculars, and studied the line for hours. He saw a maze of collapsing ice structures and sharp snow fins that seemed to defy gravity. In the lore of mountaineering history, it is believed that Mallory looked at this formation and decided that attempting to scale it was a pure fantasy, a route that could only exist within the safety of a man's imagination. Mallory likely meant the observation as a warning, intending to save future generations from throwing their lives away on an impossible goal. But in the world of mountaineering, calling a route an impossible fantasy does not keep people away. Instead, it turns the line into a holy grail, drawing climbers directly into the trap. The physical anatomy of this specific ridge reveals a series of fatal traps designed by nature to destroy anything that sets foot on it. The first hazard is what mountaineers call double cornices. Because the weather patterns around Everest are violent, intense jet stream winds blast this ridge from the north during parts of the day, and then shift to blow directly from the east. This back and forth wind creates hollow shelves of snow that project outward over the empty air on both sides of the ridge. When a climber moves along the crest, they are walking a literal tightrope. Because the snow is blown out over nothingness on both sides, you cannot tell where the solid rock ridge ends and where an unsupported platform of frozen powder begins. One single step just a few inches too far to the left or right can cause the entire structure to snap, dropping a climber thousands of meters straight down into the shadow of the face below. The second trap is the exposure time. On the standard commercial routes, climbers move vertically up the face, passing through dangerous sections as quickly as possible. But Fantasy Ridge is a prolonged horizontal struggle. It requires days of technical traversing across sharp rock teeth and unstable ice channels. There are zero flat spots. There is nowhere to pitch a high-altitude tent, nowhere to shelter from the elements, and nowhere to hide from the freezing gales. An expedition must spend days unprotected on a knife-edged spine, praying the wind does not pick up and throw them clean off the rock. Because the dangers are so obvious, only a handful of notable expeditions have ever gathered the resources to attempt Fantasy Ridge. Every single one of them was broken by the mountain. The first major attempt in 1991 by a disciplined Japanese team. They arrived at the eastern base of the mountain, determined to claim the first ascent. But before they could even reach the upper ridge, they ran into the mountain's primary defense mechanism, the lower ice channels. The fluted base of Fantasy Ridge acts like a natural funnel for avalanches. Every piece of ice that detaches from the upper mountain is channeled directly down the path of the ascent. After watching blocks of ice repeatedly scour the route ahead of them like artillery fire, the Japanese team realized that no amount of technical skill could protect them. They abandoned the climb at 6,400 meters. 10 years later, in 2001, mountaineers Santosh Yadav, the first woman to successfully summit Everest twice, decided to take on the ridge. She assembled a team of Indian alpinists and high-altitude Nepalese Sherpas, bringing thousands of meters of safety rope. The moment the team stepped onto the lower slopes, a violent spring storm system locked over the Kangshung face. For weeks, the team was trapped inside a relentless sequence of heavy blizzards and total whiteouts, shivering in their tents while listening to the constant roar of avalanches passing on either side of their camp. Realizing that staying on the ridge meant a slow death, Yadav ordered a full retreat. The final notable attempts occurred in 2003 and 2006. These were lightweight, fast-moving teams who hoped a smaller footprint would allow them to slip up the ridge unnoticed by the weather. But they discovered that the snowpack holding the dangerous double cornices together was rotting out due to seasonal shifts. By midday, the ice turned into an unstable slush that could not support human weight. Both expeditions recognized that the route had crossed the line into suicide, and no major public expedition has attempted the line since. The cruelest trick of Fantasy Ridge is its destination. If a team somehow defies the laws of probability, survives the avalanches, and completes the long horizontal tightrope walk across the cornices, they do not reach the summit. Instead, the ridge dead ends right at the base of the infamous three Pinnacles. These are three giant towers of crumbling stone and ancient ice sitting right in the upper limits of the death zone, the height above 8,000 meters where the human body begins to die from a lack of oxygen. The rock here is loose and shatters easily. Trying to navigate vertical, crumbling stone while gasping for air is a near impossible task. This is the exact spot that claimed the lives of legendary British alpinists Peter Boardman and Joe Tasker in 1982. From far below, their teammates watched through a telescope as the two men pushed toward the features on a single, tense afternoon before they vanished into the thin air forever. Fantasy Ridge does not lead to a glorious finish. It leads straight to the foot of the most dangerous gatekeeper on Earth. Because it is so hostile, Fantasy Ridge remains completely undefeated. No public expedition has successfully claimed it, and it sits out on the quiet, lonely side of Everest, totally untouched by the modern crowds of tourists. The standard routes on Everest might be getting busier every year, turning parts of the mountain into a commercial enterprise. But the Fantasy Ridge remains exactly as it was when George Mallory first looked at it over a century ago, wild, beautiful, and unbroken. It stands as a reminder that even on the most famous mountain in the world, nature still keeps its secrets, and some places are simply meant to stay out of human reach.